Welcome, Climate Viewers. My name is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News. It's April 9, 2017. And this is the big one. This is what you all been waiting for. I have proved that chemtrails are intentional, and I will break it down for you immediately. I'm going to hop over to ClimateViewer.com. And the article is FAA scientist, quote, "We want to make clouds by day, none by night." Now, for those who don't know me, I've been researching the topic of chemtrails and contrail cirrus for 6 years, and I take a different approach than everybody else in the community, much to the chagrin of both sides. So let's just get to the nuts and bolts of what just happened. I talked to Dr. Rangsai Halthori, who is the head of the Aviation Climate Change Research Initiative and the Alternative Fuel Effects on Contrails and Cruise Emissions Access Flights 1 and 2. He is a NASA FAA guy. He is in charge of the FAA's ACRI. And he and I have talked previously. I met him through Amanda Bays, aka Madison Star Moon. You guys are gonna have to forgive me. I'm a little gassed up on the coffee. I made it really strong tonight. Holy crap. So I met him through Amanda Bays. We were doing a show, and we actually talked to him live on the air, and we really hit it off. He said that this is one of the most intelligent conversations he'd had in many years. I was very proud of that moment. And 2 years later, I called him back. He says, "I remember you." I was like, sweet. I'm assuming that was a good thing. So we talked for about an hour on the phone, and he just, I told him, I said, here's the things that I've learned over the last 2 years. Will you confirm these for me? And he pretty much every single thing I said was like, yeah, that's the thing. That's a real thing. And I was just sitting there going to myself, man, I have got to get this guy on an interview, because it will just blow you guys' mind to hear a top, doctor or scientist from the FAA just straight out admitting all this stuff. Yeah, and Mouse Man, Amanda's a good friend. She went with me to the EPA hearing in Washington, D.C. She spoke at that EPA hearing on flight pollution, where we gave them hell about making clouds and geoengineering. It was epic. So the point is, I wanted to just nail down one thing that had been said to me that I had seen that really kind of just nails this conspiracy down in a nutshell. Are they making clouds intentionally, or is the plan to even get rid of them? That's the question of the day, because the debunkers will tell you this is all just pollution. It's normal. What's there to see? And I'm going, that can't be so. I'm watching all of these scientists freak the F out over how to deal with contrails, contrail cirrus, persistent contrails, aviation-induced cloudiness. I've read so many papers. So I'm going, the debunkers are clearly lying, because they're all freaking out like, this is the end of the world scenario because of carbon taxes and things like that. And I'm going, on the other side, everybody says it's all intentional. I'm going, is it or not? And I asked the good doctor that, and it was based on something I saw Ulrich Schumann say, but this is the response I got back. And I've uploaded this to Scribd. I made it public domain, meaning it is copyright free, because I'm a generous soul. I'm not trying to make no money off this. This is about winning the good fight. So this entire thing, if you want to send this to your congressman, if you're going to use this for whatever, do it. I don't care. But here's the question. I said, what do you think Ulrich Schumann meant when he said less warming, more cooling contrails, predictable for operational control? Okay. And this is the questions that I sent him. He emailed them back to me. He basically couldn't get approval from his FAA overlords to go on a Skype or, Google Hangout interview with me. He really wanted to, he expressed a lot of interest in doing that. He says, I'm going to try to get permission. In the end, we ended up just doing it, this way. But this is, officially signed by him right here. Responses by Rangsai and Al Authority, and the title of the document was Citizen Inquiry of Contrails. This is a public record thing. It's filed at the FAA, I'm sure. So I asked him, I said, what do you think Ulrich Schumann meant when he said over here on this slide, less soot emissions, less warming, and more cooling contrails, predictable for operational planning? And I sent him the link in the email, but then he says, not sure where he says this and in what context. Okay. So he didn't read the links I sent him, but over here on the article, I want you guys full disclosure. Here's the script, and right underneath it where it says references, I sent him all of these references before sending him these questions. Right here it is linked: Ulrich Schumann, German Aerospace Center, research, recent research results on the climate impact of contrail cirrus and mitigation options. And you can see that is this document, which we're going to go into detail about here in just a minute, but I want to get to the point so everybody knows what the hell is going on. So he says, contrails during the day cause cooling because of reflecting of sunlight back into space. During night, they trap infrared heat, causing heating. So it is a balance between the two time intervals. We would like to have more CICs during the day and none during the night. That is confirmation from the FAA that really their intention is not to just get rid of these chemtrails, get rid of the pollution problem, to clear up the sky. Their goal is to keep them, but make sure they're only out in the day. CIC means contrail-induced cirrus. So that's what he means there. We would like to have more contrail-induced cirrus clouds during the day and none during the night. Ulrich Schumann, 2010, speaking of the ICAO, we want less warming and more cooling contrails. Predictable for operational planning. How would you do that? I don't know. Maybe you invent a program called the Contrail Cirrus Simulation and Prediction Tool to track all the flights, predict when they're going to make clouds, and see if you can make some money off of it. More on that in a minute. So this is really the statement of the century for me personally. Out of 6 years of research, I've been looking for a way to prove intent. That I'm not just dealing with people who are seriously trying to fix a environmental problem, that I'm dealing with people who actively are trying to geoengineer the planet with something that may have been pollution for 60 years. And we're going to get into that. So whether it was a secret government program, a corporate sponsored regime, or something that the FAA and NOAA just said, you know, they're making clouds and spreading water, we're just going to let them do it willy-nilly. It's really uncontrolled, like they say. None of that really matters at this point. And that's what I'm going to try to stress to you tonight. We're at a point now where the cat's out of the bag. They know that this stuff's screwing up the environment. They want to take advantage of it. As long as people are having these really crazy conversations on the internet that are not grounded in reality about chemtrails, we will never have anybody who is engaged in this discussion about what they're going to do about contrails, contrail cirrus, aviation-induced cloudiness. What's happening is there has come this divide where fear porn is used to cloud the judgment of people who think that they are activists and they are actively being deceived. And I believe that the majority, and I mean 90% of what I have read, you know, from talking heads on both sides, is just complete hogwash. That's why I don't watch anybody's videos on YouTube. That's why I don't read anybody's blogs. I read research papers. I read government reports. I read some of these, you know, lengthy docs papers that I get from credible sources that I follow. And then I compare it all. And then I'll go read what the debunkers say. After I do all that, then I go read what the debunkers say. I read what the chemtrail websites say. And then I make my decision. And here's where we are. Delta Airlines and Southwest Airlines, that's pollution to me. It's not secret pipes. It's not secret pumps. It comes out of the jet fuel. It makes clouds. The clouds screw up the sky, and it's a serious freaking problem. And now it is geoengineering. It will be. If it isn't today, that is the discussion. And the head of the FAA confirms it. And you need to read. I'm not going to read this whole paper to you. I suggest that everybody go out and read this. But I got some stuff for you tonight. Let's get into this stuff. Let's start at the beginning. So let's go back to this article up here at the top. And what I did was I broke down both sides. And I know this is going to make some people mad. You know what? I'm tired of like not saying how I feel because I'm worried that people are going to, have a freaking meltdown or cry themselves to sleep. So this is just how I feel, period. And this is based on 6 years of research, and I'm a pretty smart guy. Allow me to wet my whistle with my coffee. And anybody in the chat room, if you guys got questions, I'm watching this thing tonight. So, chemtrail conspiracy fans are firm in the belief that clouds are intentionally being created. My response: there is no way to prove or disprove this statement, therefore I avoid this trap. Secret pumps and pipes are installed in planes to achieve this. My response: in 6 years of research, I have not seen one photo of a pump or pipe that I could not find the original and thereby see through the deception. Please feel free to prove me wrong. Send photos to jim@climateviewer.com. I mean that. Google image search. There are many different ways to find out where photos came from. Don't let people fool you. Ballast tanks and fire retardants. It's ridiculous. Wing drain pipes. I've seen it all, man. And I go look up charts, and I need to know for myself. Am I looking at something that's hidden, secret? No. There's many documentations on this. Call somebody and ask them. Anyway. Step 3. This is the chemtrail side. These clouds are filled with chemicals that kill people, cause Morgellons, mind control, transhumanism, and every other imaginable intentional harm. Now, I cannot understate this. That's why I put this in these 3 in bold. This is fear porn. This is preached by those who use your fear for profit. They turn a serious pollution geoengineering issue into contrail crack and get you addicted to that fear. They make up their own terminology. They induct you into their church, and they rake in the money from ads and donations. Go shopping. Stay scared. This is called fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is one of the control mechanisms that the majority of the internet activism included. Politicians, governments, freaking media. You guys know this. Hell, Yoda told you this. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Fear is the path to the dark side. So that's what a lot of these guys are doing. They are attributing massive amounts of fear to clouds so that you are addicted to wanting to know every detail of it from their perspective, because you're now in their church. You're in the church of contrail crack, where I'm going to tell you that they are putting, and I could do this. I swear to God, you guys doubt me, I'll go make the fear pornest, scariest video you've ever seen, and I'll have 1 million hits on that thing this weekend. But I won't do it. But I could. And it'd go something like this. Every day there's a cataclysmic assault on the whole goddamn planet. And the nanobites and the Morgellons with the orb flying, and we're in a dome, and this is the world's flat. I mean, that's how they talk. And it's to build up. I'm not going to go on about fear porn anymore. ClimateViewer.com/propaganda. Learn about it. And then the other step to that is slave speak. This is linked on the sidebar of every page on ClimateViewer right here. It says, kill your television. And please, if you don't believe me, read this freaking paper. And then go back to your favorite chemtrail website and you tell me how many high-level descriptors are used on that page. And by that, I mean argumentative bullshit words. Learn all about it, please. Then go back and review your favorite website. Tell me if it's full of slave speak. If it is, send me a link. I'd love to see it. So let's move back. I don't approve of people using blanks like, in the Monsanto with the Morgellons, with the orb and the holographic plane. Oh, shit. Now, some of it may be true. Some of it may be attributable to the military. I'm willing to bet my left testicle that the U.S. military, and more than likely the CIA, is geoengineering. I'm over here on weathermodificationhistory.com. I'm going to come down here real quick just to give you a sample. CIA Project Nile Blue. This is very unreported story, but we were doing cloud seed. This was doing cloud seeding to keep the sugar harvest in Cuba from, being bountiful. So they were stealing the rain from Cuba. The CIA modifying the weather. 76. Now, the CIA just funded some studies on geoengineering, and if you think that those white planes you're seeing that aren't on the radar are, Delta, you're confused. That's the CIA. That's the military. So no confusion here. Today, we're talking about pollution from craft. I'm not talking about government-approved secret programs that are funded by CIA, USAF, any other three-letter agencies. Those are real things, but those are not what we're talking about today. Moving back over here. So, moving on, we're talking about planes making climate sucks and how the FAA and the government sees what they're going to do about it. Okay. And, I'm going to open this up in just a few minutes for the people in the chat room. If you guys got Google Hangout, feel free to come in here and ask me your toughest question. Going to love it. All right. So chemtrail debunkers. Now we're going to do the other side. Oh, wait, did I skip a question? I did skip a question. Most agree, this is on the most agree that these clouds are either weather modification or geoengineering and are controlled by secret government committees or corporate. Response. Contrail cirrus are both and geoengineering solar radiation management SRM. A plethora of government agencies, scientific organizations, and industry bodies are involved in discussing how to deal with and or take advantage of contrail cirrus clouds. Proof of that is in the interview below. So, cool. I'll invite you in just a minute, Justin. And you guys might be able to tell that I'm hoarse because after I had this interview, I got it back on the 3rd. I have talked to so many people about this already. Oh my God. All right. So now we're going to switch to the debunker side. This is just, for everybody's personal edification so that I can do this one good time and you guys will understand where the hell I'm coming from, get it off my chest all one time. Debunkers. Contrails are just condensation, just harmless water vapor. I know you guys have all heard this. Here's how you really screw up the trolls when they say this to you. My response would be condensating on what? Because they always say it's condensation, right? And I'm going to say to you, condensating on what? And the answer would be, give them the answer when they don't know the answer. If they don't, cloud seeds or aerosols like soot or metal nanoparticles. And that matters a lot. So that's like a shell game, a straw man. That's how they trick you. Oh, it's condensation. Condensates on what? Boom. So I eat trolls for just candy. I mean, you guys have no clue. When I'm having a rough week or I just feel like I don't have anything, like I'm having a moment where I just want to unleash on somebody, I go find a troll who picks on people who believe in chemtrails, and then I go, oh, but you think you know what you're talking about. And then I eat them alive just for fun. I picked on Mick West earlier today. I'll show you that before we get off this thing. So anyway, they say that, I say condensating on what? This is completely normal. Nothing to see here. Move along. My response. What is normal about jet aircraft blocking out the sun altering weather, and ruining an otherwise beautiful day. How many people agree with that? I mean, it's real simple. This is the way I view it. I don't look at it like, oh god damn, they're trying to kill me. Oh, it's all, oh man. I don't look at it like that. I look at this, I follow the money. If you follow the money, you'll get to the answer. All right, so yeah, that's right. Mouse is kind of hitting it over there. The thing is, like, aerosols, this is one thing that most people don't consider. It's not just the aerosols that are generated by the jet fuel and the exhaust. You have to also consider background aerosols. There's a lot of lead up there. There's mercury up there. There is all kinds of man-made metals that travel high into the atmosphere. And when a plane flies through that, come on, man. It's like if you're a smoker blowing some smoke and then flashing a light beam through it. I mean, that's what's going on here in some cases. I saw a paper about the mercury levels over Texas. It'll blow your freaking mind. But that paper has been removed from the internet, so I'll find you a new one. Let's move along. Completely normal, nothing to see. And I say, well, there's nothing normal about that. And it is a problem just because of if you don't like the visual aspects of planes just blocking out the sun, screwing up your sky, then you can say that. It is okay to say that in public. I don't like planes making clouds because they are shitting on my sky. Period. And nobody can debunk that. Not a soul on the planet can argue with your right to have a sunny day that was not screwed up by planes. Period. Winning. Contrail Cirrus, nerd for chemtrails, is not used to harm people. Response: I mostly agree with that statement. But like Billy just said, remember acid rain back in the 90s? Exactly. That's my dude. You know what? Let me go real quick. Since Billy Hayes, my good bud, he just brought it up. He threw the acid rain word out there. I kept it out of the article just because, like, I'm trying to keep, I mean, there's so many ways that you could describe this stuff to people, and I don't want to, I don't know. I don't want to overscope this tonight, but check this bad boy out. A high-flying theory on the acid rain problem. And yeah, it's planes. And this is a Pittsburgh Press, 1982. These are from newspapers. Dominic Marama did this one up for me, personal request style. I was like, Dominic, you got to redo this one for me. You can find Dominic over at weathermodificationhistory.com and Weather Modification History on the Facebook. And just let's come on there for me now. So rude. That's the lazy load taking forever because my wife is on the Netflix and I'm streaming and we's in the country. Love you, baby. Oh wow, you're not on the Netflix? I'm under attack. Anyway, so yeah, Dominic and I, we've been working together, and he's going through the newspapers and making these articles up, and I'm adding them in here now. So you're going to see a whole bunch of those, like the CIA one you just saw there, Project Now Blue. Oh man, I could go on so many different tangents. Pulling back. All right, let's close out some windows so that I don't blow up my internets. Uno momento, por favors. Where in the heck? I've got too many windows. There it is, and you're gone. Boom. All right, so yeah, it is. Justin nailed it. Very hard to sift through what's real and what's fake. And that's why I'm telling you, for me personally, it's the slave speak thing. It's right here on the sidebar. Come over here, read this article about slave speak, and recognize it's this thing right here. The Anatomy of Slave Speak. And what it'll do is it'll point out that people who use a lot of don't mean a damn thing. They're trying to manipulate you. And lying. How people try to manipulate you. See, when I'm reading other people's websites and they got an article about chemtrails, if I start hitting too many of those words, it's already a red flag for me. So I throw those words out as I'm reading because I know that they don't mean anything. And then when I finally get down to the nuts and bolts of what you're really saying, oh, well, they're actually just linking to that, that paper, weather modification problems potential, and from 1978, and saying that it says something about chemtrails in there when it actually doesn't, and it had to do with NMOD and Operation Popeye. So like there's these these mass confusions about a lot of the documents that came from my timeline, because people are constantly not attributing where they got shit from and then going, well, I read it and this was what it means, and it doesn't mean that because they didn't read it. Wow, big tangent. Let's go back. So, contrails are not geoengineering. This is from the debunkers, and this one is definitely dead. Contrails, and I'm going to put it to you like this. At best, contrail series is inadvertent weather modification and accidental geoengineering. No comment, Justin. At worst, aviation cloud creation services are administered, coordinated, and numerous historical documents tend to lean towards the latter. So what are these little links right here? This is inadvertent weather modification, as they call it, over on the 18th conference on planned and inadvertent weather modification. So if you don't know this, they have these weather modification conferences like every 2 years, 2 to 3. And this one is the 18th one. So this was in 2011. And you can see that it's just a whole bunch, everybody who modifies the weather all over the world getting together, bragging about how they did it. What have we learned from over 50 years of artificial rain enhancement experiments and operations in Israel? By Zev Levin, Department of Geophysical and Planetary Science, Tel Aviv University, blah, blah, blah. And here's their presentations. There's videos, there's PDFs. I've been reading these for the last 6 years. I know you guys haven't, because I haven't seen them on any freaking website ever. But a lot of these presentations, you can see them on my YouTube channel. So just scroll back through the years. You'll see some of the old videos. Regardless, at the actual weather modification conference where the people who modify the weather hang out, they refer to this as inadvertent weather modification. Okay? Commercial aircraft inadvertent cloud seeding. Okay? Simulations resulting from unintentional aircraft-induced cloud clearing. Unintentional. Inadvertent. They put it on every damn thing they write because they're basically saying that it's hands off. We have not actually taken control of where the planes are going, what we're doing with it. We're trying to figure it out. It's still uncontrolled. It's inadvertent. It's hands off. So that is really the crux of all this. Is it intentional? Is it unintentional? Seriously, that's where we're at. So over there they call it unintentional, but over here they call it adhering. This is a weather modification history, and you can see Chuck Long, he said basically that planes were making ice haze that is whitening the sky. And this is Chuck Long from NOAA's Earth System Research Lab, CRES. I think I've got an archive right here because they deleted it. So I back up everything on Wayback Machine because this article got deleted, and I really hate it when they do that crap. So let's let that load up for a second. Oh, this is the deleted page. Let's go back. I'm going to click back a little further. And there she is. Don't you love it how they delete shit off the internet? Accidental geoengineering, airline traffic may help create an icy haze that's brightening U.S. skies. By Chuck Long. His email is chuck.long@noaa.gov. And he blew the whistle on this thing. He said, well, you know what? It's intentional or not, they are doing it. It says, the finding, if varied, could mean in essence already conducting a geoengineering experiment on the atmosphere, adding ice particles that change the way solar radiation reaches the Earth's surface. So this is basically them admitting what we've known all along. It's just how we want them to admit it. You know, how much are we expecting out of this? Well, geoengineering. They're still saying that it's accidental, unintentional. That's changed today because of the statements that I started the video with. When they make the statement that they don't want to get rid of these clouds, they want to make sure that they don't have them at night, but they do have them at day. That is control. That is intent. That is a geoengineering experiment. That is everything that the chemtrail conspiracy people said all along. And it's real. It's proven. And it's out there. So let's move along. Here are the facts. Jet aircraft have been creating clouds that fan out and block the sun since 1948 at least. And you cannot argue with this. I've had people argue with me on this. This part's going to suck for a lot of people. The airline industry was sued in 1970 by the state of Illinois and New Jersey for chemtrails, except they call them smoke pollution of the sky. Did you know this? History repeats itself. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. And this is a case of history repeating itself. The airline industry settled out of court, swore they would clean up pollution, and the clouds should go away. They did not. 10 years later, Chicago skies were still covered by clouds made by planes. September 11th, 2011, all planes were grounded and scientists observed contrails fanning out and covered. Were shocking to the scientific community, showing that contrail cirrus were affecting the daily temperature range. And what that means is at night when it should have got cold, it didn't get as cold as it should have because the clouds were creating a blanket that was trapping heat. So the outgoing radiation that should be escaping to space wasn't. But when we grounded all the flights because of the terrorist attacks on 9/11, all of that that daily temperature range, I think it was like 2 degrees, a 2-degree difference. Not big, not monumental, but it shows clearly that there was an association between the trapping of heat and the daily temperature range from the contrails. So that was the first chance. The second chance in 2008, there was a volcano that exploded, and an E3 AWACS covered all of Britain. With, by itself, covered Britain with clouds, and the scientists got to observe that too, and they totally freaked out. Totally freaked out. All right, I'm going to need a little coffee. Let me read some of this. Who's steering atmospheric rivers, Lee? Nobody said acquiesce today or sky blue. All right. So these two papers highlighted that basically the industry may be facing the largest carbon tax in history because their clouds do more heating to the planet than CO2 ever would, could, should, will. And by the way, I went to the EPA in 2015 and said that. It's on the record. It's on C-SPAN, transcript on my website. And I was right. I was so right. You should see all the papers coming out today about Jasper Kirkby, the cloud thing, and Svensmark. Good stuff. My throat's tickled. All right, so, and we already did Chuck Long, so let's do this. Here are the peak source. This is from 1948, Mystery of the Port Augusta Sky Trails. Yes. So they've been making the chemtrails a long time. Plain vapor trails, Brisbane, Monday, June 11th, 1951. This is in Australia. Plain vapor trails. Nice. Oh, crap. Darn Sky Riders, 1958, December, Spokane, Washington, Daily Chronicle. Jet Trails, Dim Sun, Palm Springs, Gripes. So we all thought that, this chemtrail thing was a relatively new thing, but, when you do your research, people, and you don't rely on anybody else and you go out and get it yourself, You come up with new things. So we're going to have a whole lot of new tonight. And I hope that you guys will spread this around and make a whole lot of people eat crow, because this was a shocker to me. I found this out 5 years in. And it was an eye-opener. So the Air Force has long since resigned to fuss about noise from its jets. Now comes Palm Springs, California, with a new complaint that jets' trails overhead are so thick that they're beginning to blot out the sun. 1958. Really happened. Write it down. Pass it around. Fascinating stuff. So let's move along. Here's another one on that same thing. This is from Oregon. New fuss raised over jet trails. It's great. It's great. So let's move. And on this one, I love this quote. As you know, Cooper Wired Sod, our entire economy is dependent upon the tourist trade, which is predicated on our bright sunshine and warm climate. Recently, our sky has resembled a mob of exuberant sky riders performing an aerial circus. The contrails are not disappearing, but are breaking down into a haze and creating a cloud-like appearance in the sky. With the unlimited expanse of barren, uninhabited land in the west, does such activity have to be centered over a resort area, which is offering the visitor cloudless skies and unlimited sunshine? The Air Force, so far, is flabbergasted. Oh, man, it's priceless. I read it and I was just like sitting here grinning ear to ear. Unfortunately, most people don't read on the internet, so that's why I'm making this video today. Moving along, so that's the 4 that pretty much really made me go, well, damn. You know, it goes from 1948 to 58. That's 10 years, and then they got sued. And most people, nobody knows that. Only on my website, and it's on ClimateViewer.com and Weather Modification History. Nobody's talked about this. U.S. to clamp down on jet pollution. The government, basically, this is Secretary John Volpe. He met with 43 commercial airlines Tuesday and said they must end pollution of the skies with jet engine smoke by 1972 or face punitive legislation from Congress. That's right. In 1970, the Secretary of Transportation, because 2 states sued, told the airline industry if they don't get their shit together and stop making clouds, they're going to face punitive legislation from Congress. Pretty crazy, right? Here's the other paper on that. Says it very succinctly. I'll read the whole damn thing just so people know this is a real thing. Really happened. 1970, this is the Evening News, Newburgh, New York, Wednesday, January 21st, 1970. Illinois and New Jersey officials will say they will not settle pollution suits against the nation's major airlines out of court, despite Tuesday's agreement between the airlines and the federal government to clean up jet aircraft exhaust. Representatives of the 31 major domestic airlines agreed to install burner cans to eliminate most of the smoke from their nearly 1,000 jet aircraft by 1972. The cost is estimated between $13 million and $15 million, and the airline officials indicated that they could probably absorb this expense without an immediate fare increase. Quote, "We expect to get this agreement written into an enforceable court order," said Richard D. Sullivan, director of the New Jersey's Division of Clean Air and Water. So the state of Illinois and New Jersey, Chicago, Illinois, it's going to matter in just a second, said that they will not settle pollution suits against the nation's airlines out of court. So even though Secretary of Transportation and the government and the airlines met real quick in 1970, said, shit, we're in trouble. Shit. What are we going to do? And they said, okay, we'll install burner cans. There are these new combustors. It'll reduce the amount of particles coming out of the plane. Clouds will go away. Okay. And that didn't happen. And they said they wouldn't settle out of court. I haven't got any more information on that. Love to find anybody got any information on this court case, and you can do case law, and you can get me a copy of the transcript of this lawsuit from the state of Illinois and New Jersey. I want to find 2 states that are willing to sue the airline industry today for blocking out their sun. And I got a couple creative ways I think we can get that done. So let's move along. 10 years later, Chicago skies still blanketed with clouds. Apparently the lawsuit didn't work. And here's the picture of that. Let's do that so you guys can see it up close. Kind of a big picture. Oh, that's kind of boring. Jets changing climate for good or ill, and Chicago, Illinois, I said, right? Boy, that's a big picture. You can do it. The crowded skies around Chicago are causing the crowded skies around Chicago are causing cloudy skies and changing the climate along flight paths into the world's busiest aircraft crisscrossing the American Midwest are leaving vapor trails that eventually form wispy cirrus clouds, according to the study by Illinois climatologists. These man-made clouds apparently cause cooler days and more rain. Back then, naive that these did cool the planet and they made more rain. Period. And think about acid rain and think about heat me better. Pretty funny stuff. He estimates commercial aircraft fly over Illinois every day, more than half going to or from O'Hare. So Chicago, in Illinois, where they sued, said 1870 stop making clouds over Chicago. That didn't work. So let's move along. And then in December 1980, I've got this beauty from NBC News where they got this quote. Unlike most changes to the atmosphere caused by man, this one is beneficial. Richard Simonin from the, wait for it, Illinois Institute of Natural Resources. Wow, man, you just can't make this shit up. So crazy. So crazy. And then they go on to say, someday weather researchers may be able to use jets on purpose to change our weather. Wow. 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 Then we have the 9/11 paper. The paper was titled Regional Variations in U.S. Diurnal Temperature Range for the 11 through 14 September 2001 aircraft groundings. Evidence of jet contrail influence on the climate. Whoa, that's a mouthful. I do not suggest you read this. It is very nerdy. It's very boring. I read it. Moving along. So there's the photo is right there, and you can see this is George Bush hauling ass across America, and 2 F-16s left those streaks right there. I'm not even going to blow that up. You can go read it on the article. New research, and this is now, after this 9/11 paper, that's when they had their first aha moment, went, holy crap, I think these things are heating up the planet. And so then CBS News came out with this piece titled Sky Graffiti Warming Up Earth? ? And this is from their paper. Contrails are lines across of exhaust left by planes. It can be fun to watch them. So it can be fun to watch them as they crisscross the sky. But Anthony Mason reports some people think they could spell trouble for the planet. New research, this is the quote, new research suggests that jet exhaust is 4 times better at trapping heat than ground emissions, with contrails playing a critical role. Contrails form at high altitudes when high jet engines pass through cold, moist air. The clouds spread out, trapping heat rising from the surface. There's the video. Watch it yourself. Then the second chance to influence to see how bad the contrail problem was the Europe flight. Okay, yep, that's the one. That's where I'm going right now, Mouse. This Mouse guy's like all over. He's like, talk about the Europe flights. That's where we're at now in the story. So now we're in 2008. And what happened was the Jokol. Man, I'm Southern. Don't try to get me to pronounce some shit like that. Anyway, that volcano right there blew up. And they grounded all the flights over Europe. And what happened was there was an E3 AWACS, which was doing circles basically look like that. Here, let's blow that thing up. This is a fun one. Might as well blow it up right. So what you can see is, at first, you see the circles. They'll appear right about here. You can see the E3 AWACS was doing circles. Now, I know you guys have seen a bunch of them chemtrail photos where they're like, why the hell would anybody do that? And the guy's doing like corkscrews in the sky. Well, in this case, that's exactly what you see on the satellite photo. See the corkscrews? That's because the E3 AWACS has a huge freaking radar on the back of it. And it's actually scanning the skies to make sure that when they grounded all the flights, everybody's actually grounded. And probably for, military defense, because it's a military radar. Regardless, this plane created that big haze. And they got a good satellite shot of it, which you're looking at right here. This is the original. It's got timestamps and all that shit. And this was Jim Haywood and company. And the paper, I believe, is Lee et al. 2009 for the science guys out there. And the quote goes like this. A single aircraft, which is what we just saw, operating in conditions favorable for persistent contrail formation appears to exert a contrail-induced radiative forcing some 5,000 times greater than recent estimates of the average persistent contrail radiative forcing from the entire civil aviation fleet. What they're saying, I'm going to break this science speak down. A single plane, when clouds can be made, because you guys have seen it, we're like, why are there no chemtrails today? There's no water in the air, dude. You do have to have water. Some of what the debunkers are saying is true, not all of it. Shit. A single plane by itself has a contrail-induced radiative forcing. Radiative forcing is how much sunlight it blocks, how much it traps. Is it positive or negative? That's what radiative forcing is. Whether or not it's reflecting or trapping heat, period. They're saying that the radiative forcing, the ability of it to trap heat, is 5,000 times greater than the CO2 coming out of every freaking plane in the entire industry, according to the IPCC. 5,000 times bigger than all that. So that's a huge, oh my God, we're in deep crap kind of comment. Now, even the doctor in the interview that I did, he kind of plays this down. He's like, well, it's really not that much. Nobody knows. Period. I'll even give you his own quote here in just a minute. In a seemingly unrelated study by NOAA's Earth Systems Research Lab, Cooperative Institute for Research and Environmental Sciences, CRES, they found that stratospheric sulfur dioxide doubled from 2000 to 2010. And they don't know why. The reason why it doubled is because of JP8 and the military switch from gasoline to diesel fuel. Won't go into that today. But regardless, putting a bunch of sulfur up in the sky, bad thing. Yep. That's exactly right. And Robert Stanley said, are they trying to terraform the planet? Makes me think of Venus. Me too. Totally makes me think of Venus. All right, so we're getting kind of late into this thing. I'm going to go ahead and pop this in here. Now, if you guys want to join, feel free to join. Please don't come in shouting and acting fool. Link in the chat. So then after all of this, the 2011 BBC tries to spin all of this, and they say after all the data was analyzed and there was an increase in temperature that suggests that contrails cool the planet. And basically, they oversimplified the 9/11 paper and said, well, it actually said that they cooled the planet, which is bullshit. Finally, Chuck Long, also from CRES, same people said the stratospheric dioxide thing. He's the one who said the, quote, Long suggests that high-altitude ice haze created by water and other emissions from aircraft, meaning metal and soot, is responsible. I'm talking about a subvisual contrail-generated haze of ice, which we do not classify as a cloud, but gives the blue sky a more whitish tint. That is geoengineering, guaranteed. And it's Chuck Long from CRES says so, period. So if you guys have, and I know you've seen it, where the sky looks super white, especially along the horizon. If you watch it when the sun's going down, is the best time to see it. You can see how thick the aerosols are. Usually, I'll see a very heavy white tint along the horizon, bluer overhead. Just you'll notice it now. Why does all this matter? Because now they're at the point of contrail control. Because now that they know it's trapping heat, they know they're in deep crap, and they got to get their feces consolidated or they're in trouble. Here's 4 articles which pretty much confirm that. Clouds like blankets trap heat and are melting the Greenland ice sheet. Boom. This is January 12th, 2016. Cloud blanket warms up melting ice cap, January 2016. New study shows that 30% of Greenland ice cap melting cloud cover that is helping raise temperatures and accelerate sea level rise. For those who have not been to my page, I have has this page called Chemtrails, The Shady Truth About Contrails. I have a very lengthy section on melting the poles, and I think you probably should read that. So let's go back up here. That's me, by the way. Where is my scroll bar? There we are, and we're back. So the point is, they know that now the cat's out of the bag. They know these clouds are mainly CO2, not CO2. I think I have a thing up here for you. No. Yep, that's the volcanic ash one. Then we were just talking about volcanic ash cloud from Iceland grounds all UK flights and how they went and studied it and all that. So let's close that. I'm not going to do that. Here's the section on melted freaking poles. So 100 years of people saying they're going to melt the poles. Come over to climateviewer.com/chemtrails, melting, and you can follow along with that. All of these things that they did to try to melt the poles. And then they said supersonic transports could double the constant naturally present. A 5-fold increase in stratospheric water vapor alone would raise the temperature of the Earth's surface by 1.6 degrees Celsius. And that was said at the Weather and Climate Modification Problems and Prospects back in 1966. Boom. Let's go back. So the idea is simple. Change the type of cloud seeds, aerosols, or cloud condensation nuclei coming out of jet engines so they make clouds that do not trap heat. Generally speaking, their plan is to reduce soot and add sulfur. This should make cooling clouds. All right. So carbon black soot is black. Black absorbs heat. It's pretty simple. Sulfuric acid sticks to soot. It makes clouds. Okay. Also in there is metal. I can show you that stuff. Where's my little metal chart? I got a metal chart. I can find it. There it is. All right. So people ask, where's the aluminum come from? It's in the jet fuel. This is JP5 Jet A and JP8. And they say not detected, no aluminum in the Jet A. There was no aluminum in that sample because I'm going to find some other ones that have that because that's some bullshit. There's no way that the Jet A does not have aluminum at all, and JP5 and JP8 do. So my point is, JP5 was gasoline, JP8 is diesel fuel. When they switched from JP5 in 1988 to JP8, they tripled the amount of aluminum in that fuel. Made clouds everywhere. Same thing with the titanium. There was 35 parts per billion of titanium in jet fuel. There's 1,056 parts per billion in JP8. And you can see 70 to 351 on strontium as well. Whole bunch of different ones. Calcium, 5,000 to 31,000 parts. So this stuff is full of all kinds of different man-made or, earth metals that, end up getting burned out the rear. Wow. Moving along. So they think that they can change the chemical equation in the jet fuel, and then they will make clouds that actually just cool the planet, not trap heat. All of those quotes are right here. I'm just going to skip down to them because they're important at this point. How do they look? This is near the bottom, and you'll see fuel sulfur content geoengineering. This is at the bottom of the article. I emailed this to the doctor before we did the interview. And here they are. FSE quotes. Use commuter aircraft fuels doped with aerosol generators. That was William Cotton. He was speaking at the Weather Modification Conference. This is one of those examples of, me, putting up the thing. There it is. How to seat. Use a commuter aircraft with their jet fuels doped. And you can see that this is from the Weather and Climate Engineering. William R. Cotton, Colorado Islands, planned an inadvertent weather modification, blah, blah, blah. And I uploaded this in 2013. Yeah. This is an old video. It's still only got 3,800 views. I don't know why, man. I can't make people watch my damn stuff. So anyway, let's go back. Use commuter aircraft fuel generators. Sums up pretty well. Dissolved or suspended in their jet fuel and later burned with the fuel to create seating aerosol, or injected into the hot engine exhaust, which should vaporize the seating material, allowing it to condense as an aerosol in the jet contrail. Yep. Happened. Let's go over here and close some of this stuff out. Oh, I didn't mean to close that one. Let's close that. No, I'm not going to try to open PDFs for you guys. You can click the freaking links. Options for dispersing gases from planes include the addition of sulfur to the fuel, which should release the aerosol through the exhaust system of the plane, or the attachment of a nozzle to release the sulfur from its own tank within the plane, which would be a better option. Alan Robach and Ben Kravitz on that one. The particles may be seeded by dispersal from seeding aircraft. One exemplary technique may be via the jet fuel, as suggested by a prior work regarding the metallic particles. The metallic particles referred to in this part is titanium dioxide. Once the tiny particles have been dispersed into the atmosphere, the particles may remain in suspension for up to 1 year. That is the stratospheric Welsbach patent, I believe. A potential delivery mechanism for seeding material is already in place. The airline industry. Derp. Since seeding aerosol residence times in the troposphere are relatively short, the climate might return to its normal state within months after stopping the geoengineering experiment. The main known drawback to this approach is that it would not stop ocean acidification. Acid rain. That's right. Anybody who sprays sulfur into the sky will create sulfuric acid. That is acid rain. It does not have many of the drawbacks that the stratospheric injection of sulfur species has. So they actually have a term for this. They're calling it thermal radiation management. Instead of SRM, solar radiation management, if it's done in the troposphere and they do it with sulfur, they're going to call it thermal radiation management, TRM. Google it. You can't make this shit up. Direct detection of total sulfuric acid has been achieved for the first time in the plume of a jet aircraft in flight. The measurements show the same sulfuric acid signatures for the case when sulfuric acid was injected directly into the exhaust jet. Shout out to Harold Save. Injected directly in. So they have a pipe inside the engine that sprays it into the exhaust. Sounds like afterburner kind of. And the case when sulfur was provided to the engine with the fuel. And then this is the really big one. This is the one that really changes everything. In fact, I've got to get this other thing up and get it ready so you guys can see it. Because Max Bliss sent me something today that just goes hand in freaking hand with this. So let me go dig it up real fast. All right, so applying high fuel sulfur content at aviation cruise altitude, here's where I'm at, combined with ultra low sulfur jet fuel at lower altitude resulted in reduced aviation-induced mortality and increased negative RE compared to the baseline aviation scenario. They're saying high fuel sulfur content when they're flying, low fuel sulfur content when they're taking off, because it'll create less soot around airports, which will kill less people. But when they get up in the air, they don't want soot also, but they want more sulfur, just like what I said. And that will make a negative forcing, which would be a good thing for them, because then they actually be cooling the planet. This quote is the ultimate solution for everybody to be happy, because biofuels have been mandated by George Bush. Okay? I'm going to show you in just a minute. We'll get to it. But they've mandated these biofuels, and as a result, they're going to take advantage of it. So they say, well, the biofuels don't make soot. Well, we're calling that ultra low sulfur jet fuel in this case. So that's biofuels on takeoff. All right, there it is. Thank you very much. Un momento. All right. And this one came from Max Bliss. So what they said was, we're going to use two fuels same time. And I scratched my head and I scratched my head. I said, how the hell is this even possible? I mean, is it possible? You know what I mean? Can you use two fuels in one plane? I mean, how would you do that? And then I found this. Too many windows, man. Holy crap. Way too many windows. There we go. And this came to me from Max Bliss. EP and then some numbers here. Corresponding U.S. 2013 patent application, both in the name of the applicant, disclose the use of a fuel system that can carry two distinct fuel compositions, which can be selectively blended in order to deliver a resulting fuel composition to the engines for the purpose of altering the vapor trails formed by the engine. Two fuels in one jet fuel tank. I was like, so let me get this straight. This guy just basically said what this guy said, These guys over here are saying we want to use two different fuels so they don't kill people near airports. And then one when they get up in the air to put a lot of sulfur up there, like volcanoes do, like David Keith wants to do, stratospheric sulfur injection. Well, if they put a whole bunch of sulfur in the jet fuel, it's exactly what they're saying right here. Zapadia and Company. Real paper, really happened. But that's not all. That's not all. Another technique example is the use of commercial passenger aircraft flying at high altitude to inject sulfate aerosols emitted by aviation fuel into the stratosphere. And this is called the FICA Cool project. This up over here. So I'm going to show you guys how you do this. You go over to weathermodificationhistory.com and you'll see there's 144 entries in this thing, but only like 20 are showing. Okay. Because I want to give you just like an overview. You can click here to see the entire thing, which will kick you back to the top and load them all, which there's 144. What I want you to do is go to weathermodificationhistory.com, click on this, and then click on artificial clouds, and that'll sort just the articles about chemtrails. And here's the cool project. So I don't have to load all these up over and over again. And what you have is this little doozy, stratospheric sulfate aircraft. Crazy, right? Commercial aircraft would be used to do it. The sulfur content of the fuel should be increased about 50 times the current level to have a significant cooling effect. The cooling effect would be confined to the northern hemisphere. And as you can see where it's blue here, got cooler. These guys in Africa, they burned up. Wow. Sick people. Almost done. I need to wrap this up. I'm starting to get hoarse. Faux reels. All right. So, and of course, you can see that over here. I'll even drop a link in the chat. Here it goes, guys. Back to this. So that's the quote. I mean, I've got quote after quote after quote of what I've called fuel sulfur content, geoengineering. basically, when I talked to Dr. Rang Sayal Thori, he confirmed all of this. I sent him all these links. He confirmed all of this stuff. Sent me this interview back. I suggest you guys read it. The original .doc file is right here. You can download it from. I'm gonna drop that link in the chat as well. For those of you who just want to get it straight from my WordPress. It's also on Scribd. I'm gonna drop that link in the chat. Fun stuff. So he said a whole lot of stuff in here that, you know, I could make a really big deal about. I want you to go through it. I'm not going to read it to you. I wanted to give everybody the overview today. There will be more made about what was said in this and probably a follow-up interview. But my point is this. This is where we're at, guys. I mean, we've come to a point where they've now recognized that the trapping of heat, you know, the potential for carbon taxes, they're in some deep crap. They got to make some money on this or pay the taxes. Plain and simple. So calling it now contrail cirrus and mitigation options. How are we going to mitigate the potential monetary problems we're going to have? And this little chart, I'm gonna just go through this one because I said I would. It's a very short. This is that volcano plume. New chance to detect cloud impact of contrails for reduced traffic. Compare them to the volcanic aerosols. It's similar to or better than the 9/11 case, just like what I told you. Requires access to the blah blah blah. Results from the DLR CATS project. If you guys don't know what CATS is, DLR, German DLR, this is Ulrich Schumann doing this paper. He is the world's leading researcher on chemtrails, contrails, cirrus, planes making clouds. Go Climate Compatible Air Transport System, CATS. Climate Compatible Air Transport System. And it's basically, you know, they're trying to make this green plane and have a way to automatically detect the contrails and then avoid them. Or if they can make sure they're going to make them and make the money off of it. The reason all this matters is because if you see right here, this big uncertainty, level of scientific understanding, very low. Okay? This is the IPCC chart on what everything does. And you got CO2 up at the top, carbon dioxide, this little tiny chart. You have linear contrails. Teeny little bit right here. Let's blow that up. Tiny little bit. CO2 up here. Linear contrails. This is when it changed. Reduced cirrus cloudiness. Look at that. Look at that range. Total aviation excluding induced cirrus. Total aviation including the clouds they're making. Compare that to the CO2 at the top. So their CO2 problem is nothing compared to their cloud problem. And that's why they're in deep doo-doo. Lee et al. 2009. And they talk about satellite observations here, and, you know, contrail cirrus contributes to this, and satellite says that. You can read this stuff. I'm not going to read it to you. Sum it up here. This is the contrail cirrus simulation prediction tool. It was designed by Ulrich Schumann. It is a computer program, Schumann 2009, that will do that. That will tell them where planes should be making clouds, and then they can make a decision. If it's going to cool the planet, keep the cloud. If it's going to trap heat and hang around all night, try to avoid it, make it go away. I don't know what, I can't get inside their heads. I am going to interview Ulrich Schumann. If it's the last thing I do, I'm going to interview this guy because he has all the answers I need at this point. So look forward to that in the future. And this slide is in there, and I'm going to do it just for the hell of it. This is basically pass. Doesn't make contrails. Ulrich Schumann, smartest guy in the world, expert on the subject, says you're full of shit. Measurements from these planes say that the high bypass engine actually makes more contrails. Contrails of larger aircraft are thicker and stay longer than smaller ones. More soot causes smaller ice particles, which sediment later and cause longer contrails, therefore. And that's Voigt and Schumann, 2010. Damn, that's gotta suck. It's gotta suck for all those guys who said that high bypass could not make a cloud when I see them making them over my house every damn day. This is the flight routes all over the world. You can see wherever it's bright red, that's where the flights are. These guys down here probably rarely ever see a chemtrail. Probably don't even know that there is a thing called that. Contrail from the ECHAM. It's a computer model showing where the clouds are, what they do. Avoiding ice supersaturation. This is called an ice supersaturation. Really, there are water bubbles in the sky. If they can fly around them, they won't make clouds. That's what he's saying right here. Manstein et al., 2005. Which brings us to the last slide and completes our circle around the globe and the contrails and all this. Contrail cirrus contributes a large fraction to the aviation-induced climate impact comparable to 50 years of aviation CO2. Comparable to 50 years worth of aviation CO2. Whoa. When I went to the freaking EPA hearing and said that clouds mattered more than all of the greenhouse gases that they were suing over, damn, I didn't know I was that right. Satellite data analysis suggests observable impact of aviation on cirrus cover and radiative fluxes. The climate impact of aviation-induced contrail cirrus depends on aircraft properties, e.g. soot emissions and routing. Avoid cirrus-forming regions. Both aspects offer the potential for aviation to reduce the climate impact of aviation, less soot emissions, less warming, and more cooling contrails. Predictable for operational control. Whether it was a secret program for the last 60 years, I'm still going to look into that. But for me, none of that really matters at this point because they are actively experimenting on contrail cirrus, chemtrails, persistent contrails, aviation-induced cloudiness, jet farts. The FAA is in agreement with this statement. They're cool with it. They're like, hey, we want to make clouds by day, none by night. He does stress that we have no active agreement currently to implement the sulfur fuel doping thing, but at his access did test that. So, which I will, since it's really the nuts and butts of this, I guess I'll show you that one. But that's pretty much it. They're testing this structure. Come on, slow internets. At the end of the day, they want to use sulfur doping. They are using it. And you can see here NASA access flights. This is what it looks like. Flight. I might as well do this. This is fun. Look at this crap. Look at this crazy dude. This is the actual access flights where they are taking a chase plane, flying up into the chemtrails of another plane. Oh, hell. Slow down. Slow down, baby. There we go. And right about there, watch it get bumpy. Bump, 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 bump. Chemtrail all in your face. Chemtrails in your face. And you can see the particles go up on the chart over there. So that's what they're doing. They're testing these different fuels to see how many, what the clouds are they're making and what chemicals are in there and all that. 3 different fuels are discussed: a low sulfur JP8 fuel, a 50-50 blend of JP8 and camelina-based HEFA fuel, it's biofuels, and the JP8 fuel doped with sulfur. So Dr. Hal Thorey, the guy I talked to on the phone, the guy I interviewed, he actually is testing the sulfur-doped fuel. And I just read all the sulfur fuel doping geoengineering quotes to you. I don't know how much better I can prove my case. I think I've better proved my case than anybody else on the internet, period. I have, I've challenged every single debunker out there to debate me. None will take up the task including the almighty McQuest, mighty, goddamn one of them will debate me. So I beat this thing. And everything I just said to you is a fact. It's the truth. It's also referenced over here on weathermodificationhistory.com. I hope you check that out. I'm going to keep pushing, guys. And me. And I'm going to I'm changing my focus with Dr. Hal Thorey. I'm going to start talking to the scientists, the government organizations, even the lobbyists. I need to find a way to lobby to make this change. Can help me with that, because I'm trying to be an activist here. I'm not doing to be popular. I want to change the world. So if you guys want to help me change the world, help me find a way. Spread this, make sure I'm accurate. Read it. Find the loopholes. If you see something in there that if you got a follow-up question you'd love to ask the good doctor, let me know. I'll ask him, because that's what this is all about. Yeah, I said lobby. I want to be a lobbyist. I want to be like someone who can walk up to Washington and say, look, you guys are going to knock this shit off with the cloud making and the geoengineering and weather modification. And we got this law that we'd like passed. I come from the people. That's where we're at. So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking, man. That's what I'm thinking. So anyway, this is a monumental step forward. I mean, I really appreciate, honestly, I'm not vilifying Dr. Hal Thorey at all. The guy is amazing. If you ever talk to him on the phone, you can go look at it. You can go look his stuff up. Go to the ACRI website. Let's just show it right there, and you can call him. He's a real guy. He's real deal. And just give him a call. You know, he's at the FAA. Was very nice, very open. Basically said everything he said was true. We talked for an hour. He's like, man, you really know your stuff. I was like, thank you. Now I got questions. So this is it over at the FAA. ACRI, and his phone number is right down here at the bottom. Dr. Rangsai Hal Thorey, email and phone number. And I really do appreciate him doing this. Guys, check out the interview. Man, I'm hoarse. I'm excited. I've called everybody I know to go, wow, dude. For the last year, I've seen a change where I had clouds just popping up all day long and then magically gone all night. Something new, something only the last year. Personal observation. Maybe it's happened to you, maybe it hasn't. I live in South Carolina. We all see something different in the sky, but I think we all can agree we don't want planes making clouds. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Love you, mean it. And unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better tonight. Be safe out there.